All right, Sarah, welcome to the stage. If you can start with an introduction.
Sure. Sarah Pannacciulli from Wyndham Hotels and Resorts. I focus on our street CRM strategy and enablement, which means really focus on figuring out how to use the data that we have about our guests and translating that into personalized, relevant communications, no matter where the guest is in their life cycle with us.
Love it. So we're going to dig into a lot of that today. But where I want to start is talk to me about this program design, the pillars, the guiding ethos that is really driving this program forward. What do you hang your hat on?
Yeah, so we truly believe that a lot of the accolades that have come to us across the industry have been because we've stayed true to our core ethos of being simple and generous. Those are the guiding principles of our loyalty program. And they manifest in a bunch of different ways, but every decision, especially as we think about evolving programs over time, we come back to those two pillars to make sure we're continuing to stay true to those. And I think that our guests have truly appreciated that. They understand the program and in those simplistic and generous terms, and appreciate the consistency as we evolve the program to staying true to those pillars.
So let's break that apart. Simplicity is an interesting one. I've spent some time in the CRM world back in my old days at Arby's, and the overall trend in loyalty programs across all verticals is towards more complexity.
Mhm,
If not customer facing, then certainly behind the scenes, but often even in what's approaching to the customer.
mhm.
Why are you taking such a simple approach? How does that come to life? What does it mean for you? And then the impact to the guest.
Yeah, so the simplicity element of the program is really driven by our core guest base. Being a very largely economy-based hotel company, we understand that our guests are not traveling often, city centers, big ticket travel, hotel stays. And so that simplicity is important for our guests because if you're only traveling a few times of a year in a year, you're not going to be able to understand a complex program, and it will immediately become something that you're not vested in. So if we keep it simple, for those guests, our majority of our guests who are staying in those economy brands just a few times a year, it stays super relevant and feels very achievable. And that's where the generosity comes in, is not only the baseline of the program, but how do, as we evolve the program, create spaces where we can be generous beyond the stay. And those two things are super important for our guests.
Yeah, so let's dig into the generosity piece a little bit. How does that come to life? When you say that you're a generous loyalty program, what does that mean? How does it take shape?
Yeah, so the basics are, what they are, 10 points per dollar. We work really hard in trying to figure out additional ways to bring that to life. A lot of that is in promotions. So we're very generous in our promotions. That in turn helps us attract new guests. But also there's, a whole part of our group that focuses on partnerships. And as we develop partnerships with the program, with that thinking of how can we bring this to life for our guests and that feels generous. As an example, working with a photo book partner, right? And how do you present that photo book to the guest after they've completed their stays as a free photo book? So it's a win-win for the partner. They're looking for new customers, but it also feels generous to the guests as if they're receiving a gift from us, right? And so those are the kind of examples that we try to kind of evolve and push the program forward based on that, bring that generosity to life with guests.
I love that. Okay, so we've started to talk about program strategy and design, but at the end of the day, it's how it comes to life within the channels that
Mhm.
often is a really huge driver. So, how are you then taking this program, pulling it into your owned and outbound communications? What does that look like to the customer?
Yeah, so that is my challenge every day. And so we it is very easy to initially think about offers. Let's send more offers, the right offer to the right person. We've tried to start to pivot to think about context. So I have an offer that's almost always in market. It's bonus points. It's available to everybody. how do I use what I know about you to create an added layer of context so that offer means more to you? So, for example, stay 2 nights and get bonus points, very common promotional construct. How do I weave the stays that you've had in the past into
Mm,
that? How do I know, how do I take your current life cycle or your current status within our program and understand that and create relevance for that promotion? So I know you are a gold level member, and this promotional not only will get you these bonus points, but it'll get you to the next level. Bringing those added layers of context makes the each promotion that much more relevant instead of just adding more offers.
mhm,
So using the data to create context around things that already exist and making them feel just that much more relevant is where we're really focused on using the data and making things come to life. The other place we're really focused is timing.
mm,
So we've gotten into a common trap, and when we have something to say, we tell everybody about it, and really trying to move the entire organization, not just my team, to a place of when's the right time to tell someone about this. Every loyalty program understands the challenge with credit cards, right? When is the right time? To tell someone about that. And so I've been working hard with analytics partners to figure out who's likely, when's the most likely time that people will take advantage of these things, and then really amplify those messages in again in context to where that person is in their life cycle or in their purchase journey with us, so that the conversion is just that much better, and we're just not bombarding everybody with whatever we want to say on any given Tuesday.
So you're not advocating for mass blast strategy, full
No,
file
no.
all day, every day.
No, no. I'm not advocating for it, but I cannot say we don't do it, unfortunately. So evolving, but it's a challenge, right? So it's hard to change your ways, and the organization is very used to that approach. So it's an uphill battle.
Totally. So what you're describing, these are all elements of personalization.
Hmm.
That adds a lot of complexity on your back end, your ways of
Hmm.
working, your processes. How do you ensure that as you layer all of this in, that to the customer, to the traveler, to the stay, that it feels more seamless and
Hmm.
not overburdened with all these additional layers?
Yeah. So right now we're going through a big technology transition, a marketing technology transition from a very channel managed approach, where that confusion, the overlap, the repetition, the conflicting of messages, sometimes in the worst cases, happens across the channels. And so we're looking to leverage technology to create a much more cohesive, I would say, consistent messaging strategy for our guests, and also, ding ding, buzzword, trying to leverage AI
Ooh.
to make the right decisions about what's the right message to give to those guests, because there's millions of guests and there's several messages to apply, multiply those two things, and it's impossible for us as humans to make those right decisions. So, how can we apply AI to start to ensure we're getting that much closer to getting the right message to you at the right time?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think my next question is going to resonate with any of the CRM marketers in the room. Um, Is everyone in your addressable audience, are they a loyalty program member by default? And if not, how are you considering those two separate audiences and trying to nurture and cultivate?
Yeah, so they're not. You have to elect to, you have, a person has to sign up officially to become a member. And there's a multitude of ways for us to capture you into our loyalty program. Obviously, once we have you, I know that much more about you. You're easier to address and personalize. So that benefits me. But obviously, there's a whole team focused on the acquisition into our loyalty program. So work closely with those folks on not only acquiring them, but at that acquisition moment, collecting the best information so that then I can continue the conversation. Um, but the non-members, our non-member guests, are actually a group of people that I continue to advocate for across the organization. So you and I talked about this a little bit when we spoke a few weeks ago, in that there's the program. There's program loyalty, right? You're a member and you're earning points. There are always going to be a subset of guests, your audience, who are very loyal to your brands. And for whatever reason, they don't know or they're not interested, they've had a bad experience, they don't want to become a loyalty member. That's okay. And I continue to try to advocate for those folks and creating relevant and interesting communications and having conversations with those folks, not just about joining the program. When we do have those conversations, we try to put context. What's in it for me? You have to answer the what's in it for me, and you're going to get some points on this next day, isn't it? That doesn't, if you're not a member, that doesn't mean anything. You could get a free night, you could get a gift card, right? Trying to create that context, but also there's other opportunities for you. We have new brands that are coming on board that might be interesting to you, having nothing to do with the loyalty program. So making space for having conversations both about acquiring you into the program, but also honoring the loyalty to our brands in other ways if you choose not to become a loyalty member.
That is such a poignant, point. It's like the difference between big and little L loyalty, right? At the end of the day,
Mhm.
you still have a very passionate fan base, even
Right.
if they're not taking that step to enroll. Now, the world is your oyster when you're in the CRM world. There's so many triggers, personalizations, journeys you can go and explore, ways in which you can tweak the experience. How are you deciding what to spend your energy and effort on? Where are you focused today?
So our initial decisions are really driven around scale. So yeah, you can have fun with all the data, and you're a five-time or you're a 5-year diamond member, and at one hotel you've had a somewhat bad experience, and do I follow up with a really amazing offer to you with points that I know you can redeem for something that you've redeemed for before, right? That is an amazing scenario that we have fun with, and then there's like 10 people that have that
Yeah.
scenario, right? So we really try to call it back to think about where are we going to get the most scale, where we're going to have the most impact, both for our business, but also for the guests. And so that's our number one criteria. Also, then looking at what's available. We have a lot of data. Sometimes it's not always the way you want it. And so that's another criteria. How feasible, if I can get the scale, how feasible is it to execute? And then we kind of go into, do I have the right messages? And that's the easier part, right? Those you can develop if you don't have them. But those are that's where we're at today. I would love to see us evolve to a place where it is about and we're really measuring or deciding on an LTV impact. So,
Mm.
like that scenario that I just described about a diamond member who maybe had a bad experience is clearly diamond is our top tier in our loyalty program, very, very loyal to our brands. God forbid they have an experience and then they drop off and don't stay with any of our hotels anymore. That LTV loss is huge. So the scale is not there, but the LTV loss really could be impactful to the bottom line. And so that's where I would love for us to evolve to. We have to kind of put some measurement things in place for us to be able to get there. But that's kind of what we're working on as a future state.
Yeah, LTV models are a challenge to land and to
Tricky.
do it well and accurately in a way that's usable.
Yes.
So, in the lead up to that future state, I know you're going to solve it, absolutely. How are you nurturing your customers today? What are the ways in which you're thinking about moving them along their loyalty journey? And are you just chasing spend and visitation, or are there other metrics that you're considering as success KPIs?
Yeah, so for me in a franchise system, sitting in corporate, we're looking for ways to remove the friction in the process for not only the guest throughout the process, the pre, in stay, and post stay. How can I remove the friction from the guest? as well as for the franchisee. So on property, there's a lot to be done. And how using technology can we create a more seamless experience for the guest while also removing some of the requirements or the workload from our franchisees. And so it's a win-win. So that's not about sales,
Yeah.
right? That's about can I acknowledge you that you've arrived at the property and you're a Diamond member? Thank you so much for years of loyalty. I don't now have to rely on the front desk person who's checking you in. And again, in the economy space, a lot of times that's a minimum wage person who is there for the summer and could actually care less about our guests. That's an actual challenge in our business. And so, how can I deliver that relevant touch point, make the guest feel good, and I don't have to worry about putting that onus on the franchisee? So that's one of the places. It's a different goal beyond revenue. And then another one, you might be staying with us. That's fantastic. Where you're booking. That's a huge goal within our organization is I would love for you to book direct and not through some of the other opportunities where you can book our hotels. And again, that's more for us, and the revenue will be there. It's just a differentiation on how you book that revenue. It's also helpful for the franchisees. So that's less about the guests. It's hard to change that behavior. Expedia and Priceline and Booking are exceptionally popular, and we need them. We're frenemies. But if we can get you to come direct, it leads to that much more loyalty. But it's good for the organization and our franchisees as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking a bit about lifetime, right? Let's talk about one of your longest running programs. So you're celebrating 5 years of member months. Can you tell us a bit about what the heck that is,
Yep.
what it means to the guest, how it evolved or has stayed the same over time, and what has led to it persisting over 5 years?
Yeah. So that comes back to the generosity. We about 5 years ago came together as a marketing team and said, we do these one-off offers or campaigns or all these things throughout the year. What if we brought them together in a collective campaign as a celebration for the members? And so it is. Creating a collection of those offers with a real campaign around it. So everything is in celebration of the member. So member month is a traditional kind of stay and get loyalty points, working really closely with our partners to kind of add to that generosity, finding all kinds of different ways for folks to participate in that real short consolidated time of year. It also has offers that will run into the summer. So it's an important period in the summer is a huge stay time for us, but some people are planning those vacations in that March timeframe. And so it all kind of came together for us initially. It just let's do the things as a cohesive campaign and make them sound. And now it's very intentional. That was year one, year five. It's very, very intentional. Everyone's marching towards how is member month going to be bigger and better than it was before. And folks are really now able to work with longer lead times to get more interesting offers together that are just that much more impactful and generous for our guests.
Yeah, that's an amazing pillar to start to plan your calendar around. It gives good structure and anchor.
Yes.
Now, as we talk about loyalty, loyalty rarely emerges overnight. You're not going to send me an offer and I'm like, I am Wyndham till I die. Like that is just typically not how loyalty evolves.
Correct.
But we live in this world of QBRs and sales report outs within
Mhm.
our corporate environments where it's what did we do yesterday, today, and tomorrow?
Mhm.
How are you driving buy-in to longer term strategies that might take 12 months or longer to yield fruit?
Yep. We're a very immediate results culture. So it is a challenge. One of the first things we always do is start with early wins. And sometimes those early wins are not metric focused, they're achievement based. So, for example, we've signed the contract with a new partner who will eventually, 12 months down the line, provide some actual return. So it's consistently providing progress along that 12-month track, that longer time period. Celebrating simple things like it's live, it's here, it's happening, it's working. Month one, we haven't seen any disasters. We have actually people moving through a new journey that we have in place, right? We have the scale that we had forecasted on a monthly basis. So simpler metrics, early read metrics, just
Mm,
to say we are achieving, we're progressing towards achieving that long-term goal, instead of waiting until really having like a significant revenue return, to talk about the progress. I think has been one of the things. It also, if you talk about a long-term initiative with executives, and if you go radio silent back to your desk and just work on it, having them have to come to you and say, "Hey, how's that thing going? You talked
mm.
about that and you sold it in. Where's it at?" Is like my worst nightmare, right? So proactively just communicating what's happening goes a long way in building that confidence that, okay, we will achieve it. I'm still in the executive buy-in is still there because you're continuing to champion along the way.
Yeah, that proactive storytelling is so key. I think we've all been there where someone's been like, "Hey, remind me how that thing is going," and you're just like stomach drops. Yeah,
No, no,
absolutely not. So you've been delivering year over year success with this program. It resonates really well with your loyalty members. What has surprised you along the way? What has come out of the woodworks emerged as a an interesting learning from this journey that you've been on?
The one that stands out is, which is a consistent insight time over time. uh, People never behave the way you think they're going to. And that's a challenge, but it's also kind of what makes it fun, trying to figure out what might work.
Mm,
And that continues to remind me to, as we're developing these journeys, how do you create them in a way that they're broad enough? You're creating personalization and relevance, but you also have to leave space in a way that they can direct the journey that works the best for them. And so that's super tricky. I happen to like that challenge. I find that fun to try to solve for. Um, but people think they know because you know how you would do it, right? You
mhm.
know how you would go through this journey, and people get stuck in that path very commonly. And I come back to that insight in that our guests will not behave the way we expect them to, or they will behave in all kinds of different ways. There is no one straight journey. So how do you design those relevant things for all the variations? So it's like it's like writing a choose your own adventure book every day. And I was obsessed with those when I was a kid, so clearly this is what I was supposed to do.
I hated those books. I always died like way too soon in the journey. It was like turn to page 5, game over.
I reread them, and then I reread them so I would go through every
There you
single
go.
journey purposefully.
That feels like cheating. Oh goodness. All right. So where I think I want to start to wind down on is what's next. So you've had this program that has delivered year over year success. You have your member months that you're continuing to iterate and evolve on. What are you most excited for and call it the next 12 to 24 months of a new area to explore?
I, again, that buzzword. I'm really excited about what AI can bring to the table, specifically around solving for those personalization challenges that, it's a choose your own adventure. So the AI, I believe there are tools that can allow for that choose your own adventure more seamlessly. So I don't have to be writing business rules and pathways and creating very specific journeys and the next step in the journey for each individual person. That can all be managed by the AI tools, right? And so as you move through a journey that's right for you, you're on your own personal path, the AI is helping to present kind of my collection, my library of things I have to say to you in the best way. As an individual, that's impossible. And so that's what I'm most excited about, is getting to a deeper level of personalization with some of the newer AI technologies that we're bringing on board.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for all of the insight today, Sarah. We're now going to turn it over to the crowd. For the questions and comments that you have. As a reminder, please share your name and company before asking.
One right here.
Hi, Jamie from Yahoo. Do you, when you work with your media partners, whether programmatic or native, are you seeing a lag between your CRM insights and the execution? And what are you guys doing to alleviate that?
Yep. There's a lag for sure, and we're trying to figure that out, right? They really traditionally have operated in two different worlds, so actively kind of partnering with that team to connect the two, right? Because they really are, right? They're bringing on the folks at the top of the funnel. And then we're kind of continuing that conversation down here in CRM. And so we know it's happening. How do we attribute it and connect it from a metrics and a reporting perspective is something that we're still working on. Looking at the data within our CDP that we do a lot of our paid media with is one of the places where we're trying to actively solve for that challenge. But we haven't quite honestly solved for it just yet.
Hello, Archana from ad.com. My question is on data and privacy. For as deep you want to go in personalization, how are you handling, or is it not a problem because it's first party data?
No, yeah, it's still super important. So from a first party perspective, we're really careful about the consent management, which in and of itself is a tricky data challenge, and ensuring that that's honored across all the channels, right? So you collect consent here, you have to apply it over there, and so the other part that makes it tricky and again, back to people never behave the way you think they will. They appear in your database 5 different times, and so where do you honor that consent? Is literally a atom I was trying to split yesterday while I was at this conference with our data team. So we are. Obviously we collect the consent and then we create a lot of layers of protection, I'll call them, right? We have a centralized system, but then every activation channel also has their level of consent. And again, in owned channels, it's a little easier. We're on the paid media side, right? It's a little different. We have a little more leeway, but things are evolving. So we stay really close with our privacy team is talking to us on the regular about the evolution, especially in the states, how states are making different decisions about how things can be used. So it's a constant evolution, unfortunately, right? There's no one solve and it's done. It's something we constantly have to monitor.
All right. Well, thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate your time and insights this morning.